As you settle in on your back this morning, just notice if you'd like to have a blanket underneath your head, something to just make you comfortable. Anything that you need. If it's a cooler in your house, maybe you'd like a blanket on you to begin with. I'd like to take some real time to center since we had a request of really releasing today, just helping us to let go of stuff. Let's make ourselves comfortable. Receive those props in a way that support you. You could place a blanket underneath your head. You might want to have something rolled under your knees, or as I often do, I would encourage you to have your knees bent at the beginning of class and just allow the knees to fall together, maybe the feet a little bit wider than your hips. They lean up against each other so that although you're in a relaxed position, it's a little more alert than full Shavasana. And as you settle in, softly close the eyes. And let's begin with bringing our attention to our breath. And without, at this point, changing or shifting the breath, just notice it. Simply observe the body breathing. You might notice the sensations. You might notice what areas of the body are involved with breathing. So here, if we begin to come into that practice of R.A.I.N, we're recognizing the breath. And we're allowing the experience to just be as it is. And we can be curious, right? The I in R.A.I.N is investigate. Just with interest and care and compassion, investigate the breath. And then nurture. Nurture. Self-compassion. So as we practice the teachings of R.A.I.N, the R is recognizing what's happening. The A is allowing the experience to be there just as it is. The I, we investigate with interest and care, be curious. And the N is nurture. And we're going to play with this teaching throughout the practice. We can use this concept anytime. And so let's take it into the physical body. So just like I ask you to do often with the Annamaya Kosha, the physical aspect of our being, we can use this concept of R.A.I.N. Just recognize what's happening in the physical body. What are you experiencing? What are you feeling in your physical body? And allow that experience, whatever you're feeling, to be just as it is. You can investigate it, be curious. What does it have to say? What is it showing you? And then nurture it. And to nurture the physical body, that will be the choices you make today in your practice. And those choices are around self-care, self-compassion. We've already investigated the breath body, and we can look at the mental and emotional body. Recognize what's coming up there for you. Allow the experience to be just as it is. investigate with interest, care. And then what choices can you make to nurture those emotions or those thoughts? Self-compassion. The nurturing is the practice of self-compassion. And so we're going to bring this practice of R.A.I.N into all of our poses this morning, all of our movements, all that we do. We'll come back to this again and again. Let's find our way back into our breath. Begin to deepen your breath, and what I'm going to invite you into this morning is inhaling through the nose and then releasing the breath slowly out through the mouth. Let's bring our attention first to that idea of letting go or releasing all that's no longer serving us. So on each exhale, as you release out through the mouth, it's you don't even have to have anything in particular in mind, anything specific, just the intention of releasing and letting go of anything that's no longer serving you. We're going to stay here just a little bit because this is, we're talking mid-October of 2020 and it's been one hell of a year. And there's still a little ways to go. And so there may be a lot to release. And as you're releasing, you can practice that R.A.I.N technique. Just recognize what's happening. Allow the experience to be. Investigate it and nurture. What's going on in the physical body as you begin to release? Do you feel maybe certain areas of tension letting go, or a sense of spaciousness as we let go of stuff we don't want to hold on to anymore? We do create space to take in. So checking in with yourself, being honest with yourself as to where you want your emphasis to continue here with this breath. So do you want to continue with the exhaling? You still feel like there's stuff to let go of, whatever it is. That can continue to be your intention. If you're ready to take in, then maybe your intention can move to or your attention moves to the in-breath, the inhale, and that idea of bringing in what you do need, or taking in, receiving. And you can work with these energies, right? That's that yin yang and the opposites, the up, the down, the hot, the cold, the effort, the ease. Here we have the taking in, the letting go. I mean, that's hatha yoga, the sun, the moon. And so you can work with this force of opposites with this breath throughout the whole practice. Or you can just let that intention not necessarily reside in the mind, at the forefront of the mind through the practice. You know it's there in the background. Taking in and letting go. I feel like it's been quite a while since I've shared with you a reading, and so I'd like to start the practice off with a reading from the Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo, and it's called Staying Present. It begins with a quote from Pablo Neruda. "I am, as all mortals are, unable to be patient. It's so difficult to wait, and yet nothing short of patience can give us access to the nature of wholeness. In part, this is because the mystery of life in its totality is incomprehensible, and what can be understood often speaks in a language so slow that we seldom stick around long enough to hear it. As the great Chilean poet Pablo Neruda confirms, patience is a gift that waits beneath our very human agitation. Yet only through the incredibly difficult effort of staying present will life's forces reveal to us their powers of oneness. I recently went to the ocean and listened much of the night to the surf, and the next morning I was surprised to see that the tide had receded to reveal a cliff that had been submerged. I was now able to walk on what revealed itself out into the sea, and the water rising about me, spraying and slapping what normally can't be seen, made me realize it's the same with our pain. For only when we can outwait the dark will the sharpness of experience recede like a tide to reveal what has survived beneath it all. Often what seems tragic, if looked at long enough, reveals itself as part of a larger transformation. I also remember coming upon a clearing in the woods so densely overgrown that it felt depressing, for nothing seemed capable of getting through. Something in my own makeup resembled this and made me return there several times, but it was finally in winter, without its leaves, that this same clearing undressed itself as a magnificent bed of light that happened to be on the crest of a beautiful hill. It humbled me to realize that winter can be freeing too, and that I am often overgrown with memories and reasons and twigs of mind that block me from the light. So often, in our agitation and impatience, we hurry off, annoyed and troubled, in search of love or peace, never imagining that where we first looked is now letting light through or sprouting its truth. It takes months for a crab apple to shake the crab and find the apple, and even longer for joy to split its human bark. Breathe deeply and center yourself in the dense woods of your heart. Go to the clearing from which you understand yourself. Sit beneath the many memories and reasons and feelings that have grown like leaves in your heart. Feel how the record of what you've lived through keeps the light from getting through. Without analyzing or becoming nostalgic, without thinking at all, breathe deeply and let your breath release a light blocking leaf of the heart. Let your deep centered breathing be a soft wind that starts to strip your heart free. As your heart becomes more free, more light, I invite you to be willing to extend that light to yourself in the choices you make today in the practice. We recognize and allow, investigate, and nurture. Bring your awareness back to the breath. Feel your breath. Find an evenness between the inhale and the exhale. begin our practice together just by drawing the knees into the chest when you're ready to move. So really check in with yourself. You can do so through the R.A.I.N technique, recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. And do you truly feel like moving? Maybe being in this stillness and just continuing to breathe there into the heart is exactly where you need to be. You can stay there for as long as you'd like and join us when you're ready. If you're ready for some movement, we're just simply coming into knees to chest or Uttanasana. Exhale as you hug the knees in close. And inhale, arm lengths away. Exhale, hug in, and inhale, push away. Gently, smoothly, and slowly. And I also invite you to really check in on the breath. And notice if you'd like to continue to exhale through the mouth. You might want to just move to nasal breathing, or it might feel really nice to just inhale through the nose and letting go out through the mouth. So just checking in, be honest with yourself, recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. When you're ready, and if you're moving with us right now on the knees to chest, we'll take this into knee circles. Circling around. Take this in one direction, continuing with the breath. Big or small circles. Just notice you're rolling across the top of the pelvis and through the sacrum. Just to feel that part of the body engaged with this movement, a massage. And then eventually we'll circle the other way. And then from here, maybe taking the knees and opening them wide, getting into the inner thighs, circling them around and pulling back into the chest. So just wide, neat circles. And then I'll encourage you to continue to investigate throughout the practice. Listen to that inner teacher when you kind of feel that little voice desiring something, that a different way to move or different pose, and really honor and respect that. Honoring that this is a gift that you've given yourself this morning. It's time for practice. And then we'll go ahead now and place the feet back into the floor. Open your arms wide, open the feet nice and wide. And we'll come into our double knee drop. On an exhale, release the knees to one side. Inhale, open wide. You all know this one fairly well. And exhale, release to the other side. Coordinating the movement and the breath. Get a gentle stretch to the inner thighs, the IT band, outer hip. Very, very gentle, mild twist on the low back. And then you can also engage the head with this and rotate it side to side, the opposite direction the knees go. Inhale, open wide, head comes back to center. Exhale, knees release, and it rotates the opposite direction. So here, as we move and connect our breath with this movement, again, come back into the practice of R.A.I.N. So recognize what's happening. Allow the sensations and investigate it, be curious, and then nurture it. And from my understanding, when we bring this nurturing part of the teaching into the practice, is to maybe make a different choice. Right? That would be a way to nurture yourself if this movement isn't serving you. When you've gone equally side to side, we'll come back to center. And then if you do have anything underneath your head, let's go ahead and move it at this time. Move it out of the way. And we're going to do our moving bridge for a little bit. So make sure that the item is not in the way above your head. You've moved it all the way out of the way for the arms to reach overhead. We've got all kinds of things in the way here. Okay. So arms by your side. Feet are parallel, hip width apart, and heels 3 to 4 inches from the buttocks. Let's coordinate our breath here with just the lower half of the body. Inhale, roll the spine up, pressing the hip bones up to the ceiling. Head is neutral. And then exhale, vertebra by vertebra, roll back down. As we inhale, we press and roll up. And as we exhale, we release. Recognize what's happening. Allow the sensations to be. Investigate, be curious. With care, not with judgment. And nurture, self-compassion. Noticing if the choices are serving you, if they're nourishing and healing. When you're ready, we'll add the upper body. So the next time you would inhale, the hips come up, reach both arms overhead. If you can, they come all the way to the floor above you. You can also modify this to just bring the arms straight up, fingertips pointing to the ceiling if the shoulders don't have that mobility or range of motion today. Wherever you've placed your arms, your exhale, you'll lower back down, arms stay where they are. You'll inhale back up, and exhale everything together, arms, spine, hips, back to our starting point. Let's just move through this here for a few minutes. So inhaling, hips up, arms overhead. Leave the arms where they are and exhale, lower the hips. Inhaling back up. And exhale, release. Inhaling, hips up, arms overhead. Bring in that breath, taking in, letting go. If you'd like to consciously continue to work with that intention. You can continue to exhale through the mouth if you would like to. So always practicing R.A.I.N to really check in with yourself, observe, modify, adjust anything. And the next time you find your way back to our starting point, arms by your side, hips down, pause. And in stillness, practice the R.A.I.N. Recognize what's happening. Allow those sensations to be. Investigate with care, kindness, and nurture. So I'd like to go ahead and really go into some more movement for a little bit, just kind of warming up a bit more before we dive into some deeper stretching. So let's go ahead and roll to one side. Find your way to hands and knees. And just start to create a little warmth in the body through our flow. And I'm just going to really invite you to continue to practice the R.A.I.N. Continue to check in with yourself. Just notice how it's feeling. It's very easy to move unconsciously when it's movements we've done often. We do pretty much every practice. So really be aware of who's on the mat today and what are you feeling. And we'll just start with our cat-cow. Exhaling round. Release the head. Roll the tailbone under. Inhale. And come into that gentle back bend, lifting the gaze. Lift the tailbone. And as you're moving in cat-cow, recognize, allow, investigate, nurture. And it's really, this practice helps keep us in the moment. Right? It's so easy to wander. We could go through this movement, not even think about it. We've gone off somewhere else. And so with that practice of R.A.I.N, it continuously invites us back into the moment, breath by breath. And then from here, notice if it might feel good to circle the hips, right? Just getting a little bit more fluid or creative with our movements. So you might circle the hips around. You might move the body side to side. Just kind of getting into the side body a bit. Coming back to center when you feel complete with that. Draw back into a child's pose. Exhaling. And let's just go ahead and come into our Chakravakasana. Just going back as far as it feels right for your knees. Inhaling up to hands and knees. Exhaling back. The core is gently engaged, so we support our low backs. Connecting breath and movement. Remember, the best way to think of it is anytime we inhale, we're expanding. Anytime we're exhaling, we're contracting. And if it's available to you and you would like to, as you inhale back up to hands and knees, maybe it would feel nice to begin to pull the heart forward, lengthening the spine. It's not about dropping the hip bones down to the floor. It's just lengthening the heart forward and then exhale back. So it just extends the movement that may or may not serve you. As we stay here for a little bit, creating more and more heat, you might notice the wrists get tired. You can come to fists, right? That's always an option to come up onto the fists. Just give the wrists a little break. And then we'll come next time you find your way back to hands and knees. Let's curl our toes under. We'll find our first down dog this morning, Adho Mukha Svanasana. So taking the tailbone high into the sky. And let's go ahead and just have a little fun and play, walk our dogs. So pedaling the feet in and out of the floor. Bend your knees. shift your hips. Just kind of, you can circle your head around. You can move throughout the whole spine, maybe that side to side movement. Another option is pulling forward into plank pose if you'd like to. Press back again, coming up onto the toes. Flip the feet. Work around on the ankles. And of course, there's always the option to come out sooner if you need to. And then really listening, when you're ready, we'll go ahead and just drop right into our mini flow. So on an inhale, bring the knees back down to the floor. Exhale into the child's pose. Inhale back to hands and knees, or forward with the heart if you'd like. Toes curl under. Exhale, down dog. So just alternating. We inhale to knees. We alternately exhale between down dog and child's. As you're moving through this flow, I'd like to stay with this. Of course, pause anytime you need to. Making those modifications is the way you're nurturing yourself in your practice this morning. Play with that concept of R.A.I.N. Recognize what's happening. Allow the sensations. Investigate, be curious, and nurture. If you need to rest, please do so. If you feel it serves you to continue, just continue with the flow, slow and mindful with your breath. The next time you find your way to a child's pose, let's go ahead and pause there. You are welcome to find another pose that serves you if this is not good on your knees or anything else. So you can lie onto your belly, you could stay at hands and knees, or even come to seated if you want to. I'm just going to take a moment to pause in the practice and feel. Let's put into the practice of R.A.I.N. So just recognize what's happening. Allow, investigate, and nurture. On your next inhale, let's go ahead, come on up, curl the toes under, exhale into down dog. Just take 3 breaths here if you can, in Adho Mukha Svanasana, remembering that the intention here is about lengthening the spine. So if we give ourselves permission to bend the knees and remove some of the hamstring stretch we feel, the spine can lengthen more. We can take that tailbone high to the sky. And then if you maintain that length in the spine, you can begin to straighten the legs as long as the low back doesn't start to round to compensate for tight hamstrings. On your next exhale, go ahead and bring your feet to your hands. Come into a standing forward fold. Allow the head to hang, spine and chest draping over the thighs. You might even grab a hold of the opposite elbow for a moment. Let the arms hang and just breathe here.
Feeling a gentle stretch in the back of the legs. So again, modify. Let's recognize what's happening. Allow the sensations, but investigate as well. And then through that nurturing, those are the choices you make. We want to stay out of pain and discomfort. We're just looking for a gentle stretch here. So you bend the knees more. You use a block if you need to bring your hands to lift the heart. And to really observe where you need to modify today. Release the hands back to the earth. If you were holding the elbows, let's go ahead and bring them now to our hip bones. Bend the knees quite significantly. So you press equally through both feet, engage the core, lengthen the spine, reaching the crown of the head forward as you come up. So we find our way to standing. I'm going to adjust my camera on the computer here. Can you see me? Okay, so I want to do a couple of kind of Qigong movements that we're going to do with our breath and just really feel into your energy body this morning. And the first one is called the fountain. So we're just going to talk through it slowly. It's quite easy actually. Pay attention to what's going on in the low back. So as we move through this, we keep the low back extended. All right, so we're going to bring our feet a little wider than our hips actually. Okay, so a wider stance than we would find in our typical yoga practice. Knees are soft, so we don't want to lock into the knees. We're going to ever so slightly tuck the tailbone. And you know what, I don't want to have you really tuck under, but if you tend to drop into the low back, just be aware of that, and there's a lengthening that occurs. All right, so just a slight tucking of the tailbone, so there's some lengthening in the low back. Okay, and then from here we reach all the way up through the crown of the head, so the spine, our posture is tall and erect. Right. We'll connect with our breath. Let's just go through the movement first before we worry about the breath. But the arms, we start to reach up with the arms. As you bring them overhead, we rotate the palms behind, so they face behind us. The pinkies are towards one another. We bend the elbows and the knees, but we keep the spine tall, core engaged as we come forward. Okay, and we're reaching forward with the spine. We're folding at the hip flexors, not the waist. And then from here, we just reach out wide again, bring the arms up, palms face behind us, bend the elbows, and then this is our exhale, right? So it's going to be very common to how you're used to in yoga. Inhale, reach wide. And exhale, fold. Core is engaged, spine long. Inhale. You can shift the gaze up if that feels good to your neck. Palms face back, pinkies towards you, and exhale. And again, inhale. So this is, you know, if you want to really focus more in on what's happening physically, we're certainly strengthening in our back, our thighs, right? So our low back and our quadriceps. And then we're opening the chest, we're working through the shoulders. And so here, just take a minute, we're going to stay here for a little bit longer. Just continue with this very slow movement, very mindful. And practice the R.A.I.N technique. What are you recognizing? What's happening? Can you allow that experience to be as you investigate without judgment? And then nurture it. So if there's any modifications you need to make for yourself, do so. Last one, let's inhale up.
Exhale, fold. This time, keep the arms by your side as you come back to standing. Nice and tall, and just feel, notice, recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. Good. So we're going to do another one. It's called Kiss the Ground and Reach for the Sky. They have the cutest names in Qigong. So what we're going to do is you're going to bring your palms out in front of you, palms up. Okay, same stance. Feet a little bit wider, knees soft, tall through the spine, slight tucking of the tailbone. Everything's lengthening out through the crown of the head. We bring the palms up through center, right? We're just bringing them up. As they reach towards the heart, you're going to rotate them around and press up to the sky. So we're pressing the palms up. And then you're going to turn them back down. Okay, they're going to come back down. You're pressing down towards the earth as you fold forward, bending the knees if you need to, spine tall. We don't have to go all the way to the floor, just as far as it's comfortable for you. Palms rotate back up as you lift, back up through the heart, then they rotate and press up. So we're going to work with the breath here. As the palms press down, take an inhale through the heart, and about halfway, you're going to exhale. So we've got one full breath there. Palms rotate up, we inhale, and as soon as we start to rotate the palms up and press to the sky, we exhale. Inhale, exhale, inhale, and exhale. Inhale, exhale, inhale, and exhale. Inhale, exhale, inhale, press to the sky, exhale. Inhale back down, halfway through we start the exhale. And then bring the palms up, inhale. Exhale, press up to the sky. And then just allow the arms to release out wide by your side. And just feel that technique. Feel the movement we just did. Feel your breath. Recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. All right, so one more new exercise and then we'll come back into what you all know best. But let's go ahead and we're going to bring our feet and knees all the way together. And feedback is welcome later after class if you're enjoying these. I've been adding Qigong into my own practice and I've been really, I think it feels wonderful. So, but feedback's welcome later on. So knees and feet all the way together. And we're going to bring we're bending our elbows 90 degrees, and our palms, I want you to imagine that you're holding the moon, all right? And so the moon represents feminine energy. It's calming and cooling. It's more about flow, right? The flow.
So we're going to work with the energy of the moon. So just going to keep that in mind as we move through this. We slightly bend the knees. You don't have to go very deep. Just slightly bend the knees. We rotate to the left. Okay, so we're going to rotate to the left. We have the moon. We're softly holding the moon in our hands. We're going to pick her up. All the way up and over. We're watching all the way. And then we exhale. We start to bend the knees as we've rotated to the right and come all the way back to center where we began. And then again, here we inhale. Just bringing the moon with us all the way around. And then exhaling. Back to center. We inhale through to the left and reach up. And then we exhale, we start to bend to the right. Back to center one more time. Inhaling. And exhaling. Back to center, and then come back up to standing. Relax the arms. And recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. So now let's work with the energy of the sun. So we bring the sun in between our hands. Okay, so the sun is more of the masculine energy. It's heating, invigorating, energizing. That's what it represents. So from here, just bring that energy and that intention with us. So now we go ahead, we bend the knees and we rotate to the right first. The inhale, we bring the sun up and around. We exhale as we bring it down to the left, bending the knees slightly and back to center. Core stays strong, spine tall. Inhale to the right, all the way up. Exhale as we twist to the left and bend the knees slightly. And back to center. A couple more rounds. And as you find your way back to center, come back to standing, just straighten the legs, release the arms by your side, and again, just feel the practice and just notice if it felt any different than the first side. Working with those two different energies intentionally, and then also just maybe what you felt physically in the body. But again, just recognize what's happening, allow, investigate, and nurture. Good. All right. Nice. So I'd like to do our heart salutations because I think it's such a nice stretch for opening the chest and our heart. And I'll stand sideways to you. So we're going to bring our feet back wide again, and again wider than our hips. To begin, let's simply interlace our fingers behind us. Really check in now. Notice how this feels in your shoulders. If it's too much of an opening, or maybe you might feel some tension in the wrists or fingers. Another option is to simply have your hands on the tops of your hip bones, draw the elbows back. So this is an option if the hands don't interlace. You also have the option of maybe taking a hold of one wrist, but that still is going to create some tension that you may not want. So this is the best option. Okay, if you're interlacing your hands, either way, go ahead and lengthen the spine, open the heart, shoulders stay down and back. Right, and as we move into this pose, It's really about folding at the hip flexors and really bending the knees. We're not actually looking for a hamstring stretch here. I like to remind you of that. This is a big inhale. And here we'll exhale through the mouth as you bend the knees, fold at the hip flexors, bringing the chest to the thighs and the arms up off the low back if that's available to you. Your inhale, the arms lower, heart lifts, spine stays long, core engaged, come all the way back up, and the arms are last. So you're all the way to standing as you bring the arms up. Exhale the arms out wide. Interlace the hands behind you. Inhale through the heart, and exhale, fold. Core engaged, spine long. Inhale back up. And exhale. So we'll start to move through this a little more quickly. Inhale, open the heart. Exhale through the mouth, fold forward. Inhale through the nose, come back up. Exhale through the mouth. Let's go one more if you're with me. And on this next exhale, standing, just release and put the brain practice here. Apply it here. Recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. Noticing, feeling the echo of your choices. Okay, so since we're here at standing and we've warmed up our shoulders and stuff now, let's go ahead and come to our straps. Okay, use a strap or a belt, whatever you might have. I think all of you have straps this morning. Okay, so let's begin with bringing them behind us. And we're gonna slide the hands out so they're in line with your shoulders or as wide as your shoulders. Okay. And we're just gonna simply begin to lift the arms up off the back. And just lift the arms behind you just as far as it's comfortable for you. And notice what's happening in the shoulders. So there's a tendency for the shoulders to hunch up into the neck and create tension. So keep that down. Keep the neck relaxed. We're just going to hold here in this stretch, and I'm going to allow you to decide if it would serve you to start to bring the hands a little closer together, or maybe it would feel better a little wider apart. Right? So there's where this investigation comes into play, just noticing and then allowing the choices to nurture you, whatever that may be. We're going to stay and just hold and breathe here for a moment, hugging the shoulder blades together. Shoulders stay down and back. Neck is relaxed. And just stretching the front body and the front of the shoulders, and breathe. Notice if the shoulders start creeping up, invite them back down. Let's take 3 more breaths here. After those 3 breaths, release. Just hold the strap in one hand. Just allow that your arms to hang by your side for a moment, but don't drop the strap. And just investigate. What are you feeling? And we'll do the same thing now to the front. So we'll start shoulder width apart. Okay. We're going to bring the strap out in front of us, shoulder height, and just pause there for a moment. Notice how that feels for you. A lot of people have shoulder stuff. And then start to gradually lift it higher, pausing at the point that feels right for you. Now, some of you may stay at shoulder height. You may start to go a little higher, and some of you might make it all the way overhead. Okay, so we're here to find a moderate stretch. We're not here to challenge ourselves. So just notice how this feels. You can start to bring the arms maybe behind the ears as an option and start to reach even farther behind you. You also have the option to start to widen the distance in your hands. So sliding the strap and moving a little wider and continuing to move the arms behind you. Okay, it's up to you. We're just finding a stretch here through the shoulders, neck is relaxed, and you also feel a stretch in the chest, the front of the body. And you might be feeling it elsewhere too. Breathe. So recognize what's happening. Right? Stay here, stay present. Allow the experience as long as it's not painful. If you've got pain, I want you to adjust it immediately. And just investigate, be curious. Just kind of notice, what is the body telling you? And then do you need to make another choice for yourself? Is this nurturing and nourishing to you? You can continue to move the hands wider. I love to go wide and just open back. And that feels good to me. That might not to you. I'm keeping my shoulders locked in and my shoulder blades active on my upper back. Take 3 more breaths. And then we'll go ahead and slowly release that. You can release the strap somewhere along the floor there where you can reach it again. We'll find some more stretches here in a moment. Let the arms rest by your side. And again, just breathe into the sensations you're having. Recognize them, allow it, investigate, and nurture. Be curious. Okay, so let's go ahead and come on to into a seated position. Notice if you'd like to have a blanket. Oh, and I'll turn sideways so it's visible. So we're sitting right off the edge of the blanket if you're using one, which helps to just ever so slightly anteriorly tip the pelvis, right? And this tipping of the pelvis really helps us to lengthen that low back, right? Without the blanket, we're more likely to drop into the low back and our posture rounds. I better adjust my camera again, huh? So we don't want it to be too thick, but I didn't find that that was quite enough for me, so I am going to fold my blanket again. We'll see if this is too much. And we want to feel like the pubic bone is on the floor. So we're not way up on the blanket where it's at the thigh. Okay, so we really want to scooch down, and my sits bones are actually on the floor, so it's just a slight tipping. Okay. We're going to take the strap. You can either, if you have it in a loop, you can place it around your feet in a loop. I like to have my strap, we want to bring it on the ball of your feet, and I like to have my strap in either hand, personally. All right, so I'm going to use the strap to really lift my heart. All right, so I'm pulling the strap, on the strap, like I'm trying to pull myself forward, but I'm lengthening up through the crown of the head. Now for some of you, you might already feel quite a stretch in your hamstrings. So, and if it's too intense, you can take a blanket, or if you have 2 fascia balls, and place them underneath your knees. So I know, Carrie, that really helps you. So just kind of feel that and notice if how that helps. All right, so we don't want such intensity that you hope that we're not here long. We want to be able to hold here. All right, so core is engaged, spine is long, heart lifted, shoulders down and back. And just really check in here and notice how this feels. So Dandasana, supported Dandasana or staff pose. Feet are flexed and active. And then from here we decide if we'd like to start to move the heart forward, folding forward at the hips. Right? You may only get an inch or two, and you might be able to really drop into this. We are in an active stretch. Okay, this isn't a yin stretch, it's a very active stretch. So we want to keep the spine active, so just be aware of what's happening there. Avoid the collapsing and rounding. Keep everything extended. Once you've found your position that you want to hold, come into the breath. And then just go through the recognizing, allowing, investigating, and nurturing. Just continuing to put that to practice. You can also continue to work with your breath, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth, the intention of letting go and taking in. Let's take 3 more breaths here. And then slowly come up. As we find our way back to Dandasana, release the strap. Take a moment here to just feel the results of that pose. Good. Okay, so we're done with the straps, so we're gonna move that out of the way. And what I'd like to do is find a supine bound angle pose. So we're gonna stretch the inner thighs. And what you really need to look at is what props you may need for this. So one option that I really like are the blocks. So we're gonna get a little into the hips and into the inner thighs with this. You can have something supportive underneath your head if you'd like to, as long as it's not lifting it up too high. We're going to bring the soles of our feet together. The farther they are away from your groin, the easier it is on the knees. So that's one option. And then the next option are the blocks. The farther out the blocks are, the more will open into a stretch. Now you may not need them at all. You can remove the blocks altogether. Open the knees wide, and this could be a perfect pose for you. Just notice if it may become too intense within the next minute or so. And this is where the blocks play a nice role. I'm going to bring mine really wide. The farther or closer you bring the blocks to your hips, the more lift that happens in the knees and the less stretch you will have. Okay, so there's where you can modify this. You can, once you've settled in where the lower half of the body is going to find its place, then the upper body or your arms can be a little wider or a little out away from you with your palms up, or you can rest the palms on your belly if you'd like to. Totally up to you. And then practice R.A.I.N, recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture here as you settle into the pose for a couple minutes. We're also continuously flowing with our breath, or our breath is flowing continuously and evenly. We're going to stay for about another minute here. Take about 3 more breaths. slowly release the pose by drawing the knees together, or at least upright. And move the blocks out of the way. And just like we began, let's come back to Apanasana, our knees to chest. So rounding the low back as we draw the knees in. Connecting with your breath, inhaling arm lengths away and exhale towards you. Maybe here, recognize what's happening. Notice if it was different from where we began. And just allow those sensations to be. Investigate it, be curious about that. If anything shifted or hasn't shifted. And nurture it. Self-compassion. Whatever you're discovering. Finding loving acceptance. Moving into knee circles. And then switching directions. And then we'll place our feet back into the floor, hip width apart, and find our way into our hip hikers or sliders. Just moving the hips up towards the shoulders or sliding them up the mat. Movements are small and mindful, breath is flowing. Making sure the buttocks remains on the floor, not lifting anything. Bring that to center, and then we now will lift the right hip, press into the right foot, point the right hip up to the ceiling, and the right cheek or buttock comes off the floor and back down. And then the left side. One side at a time, opposite side remains on the floor. So essentially press one knee away from you as that hip lifts. So again, the knees move towards you and away from you, not side to side. Come to center there, and then right now just alternate between those two. So several hip hikers, and then when you're ready, move into several hip pointers. And just moving back and forth for a moment. And then in the next breath or two, bring that to completion. We're going to find our way into Shavasana, opening the arms out alongside, palms up, extending the legs out along the floor. So really check in as you settle into your Shavasana. You can use the R.A.I.N technique. Really just recognize what's happening. You can allow the experience and also investigate. And with this investigation, just notice if there's a way you want to nurture yourself in Shavasana. That may mean a blanket on you, socks on your feet, something underneath your knees, your head. Finding your way into complete comfort and letting go. I'll give you a moment to settle in. For those of you who are settled in, or if you are, go ahead and just watch your breath. Watch the flowing of the breath in and out. we're going to go ahead and do a little meditation on the senses. And I want to first, we're going to go into the breath and the sense of touch together. So you're going to take the thumb, the tip of your thumb to the base of your pinky finger. And on the inhale, and you can go with one hand or both at the same time. I'll leave that up to you. You're going to inhale, slide the tip of the thumb up to the tip of the pinky finger. Hold there for a moment, hold the breath. And then the exhale, you're going to slide the thumb back to the base of the pinky. Move it over to the base of the ring finger. Inhale, slide to the tip of the ring finger. Pause. And exhale, slide it back down. Move the thumb to the middle finger. Inhale, slide it up to the tip and hold at the top. And exhale, slide it back down. Same thing on the pointer finger. Inhale, slide the thumb up to the tip of the pointer finger. Inhaling. Exhale, slide back down. Take the thumb and move it back to the pinky. And just continue with this. We're going to go through several rounds. So you decide if you want to do a couple of 2 or 3 rounds on just one hand. Or maybe it would be nice to just use both at the same time. That's what I'm doing. Be aware of the sensations and breath. Physical sensations and the breath. When you complete the next round, release this movement of breath and fingers. Allow the hands to simply relax and be aware of any sensations you might be experiencing. Recognize them, allow, investigate, be curious, and nurture, just accepting what's showing up. Compassion. Bring your attention to the light behind your eyelids. Just resting your attention on the light between your eyelids or behind your eyelids. Noticing if there's a flickering. Maybe you're wearing an eye pillow and there isn't any light. Whatever you're experiencing with the sense of light or seeing, just allow it to be what it is. to rest on sound. Anything you might be hearing in the room which you are practicing in. And whatever sounds come into your awareness, just allow them to be. Be curious. No attachments, no judgments. Now allow your awareness to drop into your heart and the light of your heart. Breathing into self-compassion and gratitude.
Deepen the breath, wiggle some fingers and toes, just slowly finding your way back. Roll to one side. And then find your way to a seated position. And as you do, bring your palms together to your hearts, acknowledging this time we shared with one another. Acknowledging yourself for showing up for you. And I thank you for allowing me to take the seat of teacher today. Namaste.